over £5,000.
Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight, illegal migrants leg it out of a lorry, but...
You know, the French just waving these trucks through, knowing damn well there's probably immigrants inside. I don't know.
Well, I've got an exclusive with the bloke who actually owns the company that lorry belongs to. Are the French deliberately letting these illegals through in lorries? Also...
Watch yourself.
The officer who shot gang member Chris Carver has finally been cleared of misconduct, but...
Firstly, I would like to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chris Carver.
Did his own colleagues at the Met help to throw him under the bus, and... Yes, well, the Tories have faced criticism for selecting a former neo-Nazi to run as a councillor. He's also responsible for some of those AI videos like the one that you just saw there. And absolutely horrific investigation, this. It's found that an elderly woman was mistakenly fed dog food by a care worker who couldn't read the English on the packet. Also...
I would take a thread and a needle and I'd interweave love into our society.
Well, he's going to have to take a pen and actually just write a new CV now, isn't he? Because some breaking news in the last few minutes is that the Cambridge professor who is accused of being Britain's biggest Walter Mitty has resigned. Plus, Green Party activists knocked on a man's door and then reported him to police for disagreeing with them. On our panel this evening, we've got the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We are joined as well by journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov and Reform councillor Jamie McIver. Anne, can you tell me what's going on here? Get ready, Britain, here we go. Are the French deliberately letting illegals break into Britain in the back of lorries? Next.
Very good evening to you. More from Patrick shortly. First, though, the 9 o'clock headlines. Kemi Badenoch is facing growing backlash after a former neo-Nazi who withdrew as a Conservative council candidate was offered an advisory role with the party. Joshua Bonehill-Payne had been selected to stand in Somerset, despite previously being jailed for subjecting former Labour MP Luciana Berger to what a judge called a cruel campaign of vile, racist abuse. He has now withdrawn his candidacy, saying he needs to show the Jewish community how much he regrets his previous actions. But Labour says that giving him an advisory role is an insult and claims it raises serious questions about Kemi Badenoch's judgment. The police watchdog has dropped its misconduct case against the Met firearms officer involved in the fatal shooting of Chris Cabba. The officer was cleared of murder last year after shooting the 24-year-old in South London in 2022. But he'd still been due to face possible misconduct action. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says it's reviewed the case after changes to rules around police use of force. Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley says that the decision ends almost 4 years of uncertainty for the officer, but campaigners for Chris Cabba's family say it sends a dangerous message. The Chief Constable of Thames Valley Police has said today that he will consider joining legal action to stop 2 of PC Andrew Harper's killers being released early. PC Harper was killed in 2019 when he was dragged behind a car as 3 teenagers fled the scene of a quad bike theft. Jason Hogg says that public feeling over their potential release is overwhelming and argues people responsible for taking another life should not be freed under the scheme. But ministers say it would not be lawful to block individual cases and say that manslaughter is not one of the offences excluded from the early release scheme. In central London tonight, 2 men are still in hospital after 4 people were stabbed in Covent Garden. The attack happened at lunchtime in a busy central London tourist area, with London's air ambulance service sent to the scene and victims taken to a major trauma centre. The 4 men, aged 34, 39, 42 and 52, were stabbed in what witnesses have described a random attack. Police say they currently believe it was an isolated mental health-related incident. Former pop star Gary Glitter has appeared in court charged with sexual offences dating back to the late 1970s and early 80s. The 82-year-old, whose real name is Paul, unlawful sex with an underage girl and 3 counts of indecent assault on a girl. Prosecutors say the alleged offences took place at his home in West London when the child was aged between 8 and 11. He appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court by video link and has been remanded in custody ahead of his next appearance at the Old Bailey in September. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at 10. Now, though, let's get back to Patrick.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Well, good evening. Are the French deliberately letting illegal immigrants come to Britain in the back of lorries? Take a little look at this. Yes, not one for the radio listeners, that to be fair, but a load of illegals climbed out of a lorry in Essex and disappeared into the countryside. A passerby took the video, and the lorry driver and the lorry company were actually initially investigated on suspicion of human trafficking, but it turns out they actually had absolutely nothing to do with it. They did nothing wrong at all. In fact, they are the real victims in all of this, as you're about to find out. But we know that tens of thousands of illegal immigrants come across the Channel every single year. But we have no idea how many come in lorries because they just scarper when they arrive. But if you look at social media, the illegals are very much still giving the lorries a good go. Okay, I've said it before, I'll say it again, just deport them singularly for their taste in music. But anyway, it's worth noting that some of these people in lorries even have knives with them. So how, with all the security at the French border in Calais, are so many illegals getting through in lorries? Well, earlier today, I spoke to the owner of that transportation company whose lorry inadvertently had several illegal migrants in it. Now, listen very closely to what he said.
The problem is that with tachograph laws now, we can't make the trip from Spain or Portugal back to UK in one hit. So on this occasion, the driver stopped in a place called Rouen, which is about 200 kilometres south of Calais. It's in an overnight, fairly secure truck stop, as secure as it can be. And we tend to sort of stay as far away from Calais as possible, because if you dare stop in Calais, you're going to get someone in your truck. So we take the necessary precautions. On this occasion, what they've done, they've got on top of the roof, which is 4.2 metres high. They've cut a slit into the soft roof that we have on these trucks, and they've climbed inside. The truck then left the following morning, departed to Calais, did not stop until we got to Calais. First, he reported at border forces, French border forces. They checked the necessary checks, including the rear doors. We have these locking devices on the doors that you can't open by any means unless you've got the right tool. The ceiling cooled, that was still sealed. They put a dog around the truck. We then moved 400 yards forward into the UK border force control area, and they've done the same checks, which is unusual, but on this time they checked the truck on 2 occasions. The truck's then free to leave. He departed on the Channel Tunnel, arrived Folkestone, and the minute you come off that train at Folkestone, you pull onto the M20 and it's non-stop all the way to our depot in Malden. Our yard was quite busy at that time in the evening, so we asked the driver to sort of pull into the lay-by between our 2 warehouses. And as he's parking in the lay-by, you can, it's clear to see from the evidence from a passerby that these 4 immigrants have climbed out the hole in the roof and jumped to the ground, and off they went.
I mean, this has exposed a bit of a flaw, has it not, in the checks there? Because, they scan it or they do whatever they do, but it doesn't seem as though they check the roof of the lorries to see if anyone's cut in.
Patrick, what I can't believe, and I've not made this trip for a number of years, and I will be making a trip very soon, but what I can't believe is, why don't they have a CCTV that's 6 metres on a pole, to check in every roof of a truck? Because every truck has to go through the same lane, the border control. It'd be so easy to have, a pole with a camera, any signs of a hole. You can't hide a hole. If they cut a hole in that truck, you're going to see it. And then stop that truck. But I don't know. Some part of me is just wondering whether, is the issue then just moved to the UK? The French just waving these trucks through, knowing damn well there's probably immigrants inside. I don't know. It's not happened to us before. We have 500 trucks a year depart and come back to the UK. It's not happened to me before. Several haulers that I know it's happened to. And that's the problem. But, because it's so... it's so in the news all the time now that local media is just pulling us apart, and I've had death threats.
Talk to me about that, John, because you have had death threats. I mean, initially, am I right in saying the police arrested one of your drivers or something on suspicion of human trafficking or something, and then as a result of that, people saw the video and they assumed, and your company's name's on the truck, and people assumed that you were importing illegals.
Yeah, because, you know, they see what they consider is suspicious circumstances. Why did our truck pull in the lay-by and not into our depot? Well, look, if I was a people smuggler, I'd be pulling into my depot behind closed doors and unloading them there, not in a lay-by down the road. I have 2 warehouses, literally quarter of a mile apart. The trucks pull into there, they call the office and say, we're here, do you want us in yard A, yard B? And then we instruct them to do so. Look, Chelmsford Police, I have to say, not only was they thorough, they was very fair. They have to arrest the driver. There's 4 illegals in the back of that truck climbing out. They forensically tested my truck, forensically tested the tachograph to show the stops and the movements, and they obviously checked what the driver had said, you know, his course of actions, and it all stacked up. And they released my driver, thank God, yesterday lunchtime. And I've got the utmost praise for them. They've done a clean job, they've done a job, and, you know, my driver's free to go. But the social media side of it is another story, you know. And the problem is we advertise locally using my mobile number when I want people, you know, when we're looking for new stuff and everything, we always go in the community. I'll be thinking about that in the future because the abuse that we're getting, you know, I've had death threats. I've had people saying, you know, if anything happens to their children or their house gets broken into, they know where I work, they're going to come and get me. You know, how can I, you know, I've been doing this trade for 30 years. How can that happen? You know, it's ridiculous. Social media is, you know, is so wrong. But, you know, maybe...
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people will watch and see this and hopefully realise that this got absolutely nothing to do with you, that really it's been through 2 different rounds of checks that should have picked this up, and that actually what you've done possibly is help expose a pretty fatal flaw on the French side that now might be corrected. You might actually end up stopping a load more illegals coming to Britain. But I mean, it's fair to say you are not particularly pro illegal immigration. This is the thing, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, what we do, we're moving people around the world, you know, and yeah, so we're not that. And, you know, these people are desperate. You know, I've seen these guys with my own eyes hanging onto axles of trailers that are moving fast through roads in France. It is incredibly unsafe and dangerous. They're desperate people. We need to do something, but we need to stop the flow because it's becoming dangerous. Last night was another issue in mid-channel, you know, with this boat that caught fire. More needs to be done. I'm sorry, more needs to be done.
All right, well, look, John, I really appreciate you taking the time for us, and I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through, but I do hope that clears a lot of stuff up for a lot of people. So good luck to you, mate, and good luck to your company as well, and we wish you all the best. All right, so to summarise, the French don't seem to bother scanning the tops of the lorries. So if the illegals just cut their way through the roof, the French won't be able to tell. Remarkable, really. How much would it cost to just put a camera above the lorries so that you could check? And why aren't the British Border Security doing it as well? Around 9,000 lorries come into Britain every single day. Goodness only knows how many illegals are inside them. Right, let me go straight to my panel now. I'll start with you, Mark, the Director of the Public Services, Mark Littlewood. It has exposed what appears to be a gaping flaw here in security at the border, which is the French don't check to see if they've cut their way in from the roof.
Yes, I mean, look, I'm not an expert in the practicalities of border security, but I would have thought that was a fairly obvious check. I mean, the other thing I think it exposes, Patrick, is, and, you know, I've said this again and again on your show, I'm not saying that the French are disingenuous, but let's have a look at their incentives. If you're running a country and undesirable people are trying to escape, what are you going to do? Are you going to actually try and keep them in France? Probably not. You're going to look the other way. If fighting-age men who may be criminals are there illegally are trying to exit France and make it to some other territory, how fussed are you going to be to prevent them doing that? So the burden's got to fall on us, I think, really quite a lot more. And sure, we can put in perhaps better checks at Dover, or this came in at Folkestone, I think I heard, if I heard that correctly. But we have got to stop the pull factor. If people believe there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, they will keep coming by their thousands. And it's not a myth. We have put a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so they're going to keep coming. These people just need to find some law enforcement officer, put their hands in the air, shout asylum, come up with some cock and bull story, and more likely than not, they will stay here. So we've got to put our own house in the order. I think the criticisms of what the French have done, given we're giving them so much money, are fair, but I think I'd probably just switch that off and make it our own problem.
Well, quite. I mean, it did also go through British security on that side of the channel as well. So, you know, we are not blameless in all of this, and that is something they're going to have to look at. But I don't, by the way, Jamie, I don't believe that they've actually caught these people. So there are just some free-range illegal migrants roaming around the Essex countryside.
Well, I was going to say, as an Essex boy, first of all, well done to that Essex business for doing everything properly. And it's wrong that they are to suffer any abuse from that. But I think the people that should suffer the abuse are the people that are responsible for keeping this country safe. That lorry with those people should not have been allowed to enter with those people in it. And that lorry driver should have been stopped when that lorry entered the United Kingdom. I don't care what's normal or not. The biggest threat to national security in this country at the moment is the illegal invasion to this country of fighting-age men like that were climbing off of that lorry. They're coming to this country. They pose a serious security risk. We know there's been some Iranians arrested for terror charges. We've seen people raped, murdered, sexually assaulted by these people that are coming to this country illegally. And I'm sorry, but any illegal entry to this country should be treated as a criminal offence, and these people should be treated in that way. But I think it goes to show, Patrick, that we look at the small boats as a very obvious indication of illegal immigration. You know, I remember being from Essex. We had in Thurrock 39 people found sadly dead in a lorry. You know, this is not an unusual thing. And the fact that the government haven't come to grips, previous and current government haven't come to grips with lorry illegal immigration is really worrying. And I think how many other lorries on the M25 that I've seen my journey here today have got illegal migrants in?
Well, it does make you wonder. I mean, 9,000, I was chatting to him a bit off air. He says that in his, I mean, it's his business to know. He says that there's 9,000 lorries roughly that come across to Britain every single day. You know, I mean, you can do the maths on that. There's potentially as many coming in the back of lorries as there are in the boats. We just don't really hear about that because they scarp us, so you don't really know if they're there or not. But it is remarkable to me that when you go through these lorry checks, according to this individual, got no reason to doubt him, there is not a camera above the lorry.
Well, I expect they'll be doing that next. I mean, the point being that they're finding ever more ingenious ways of doing it. The business with being smuggled in a lorry or somehow jumping into somebody's motorhome has been going on for years, and it was going on way before we had the boat crisis problem. And I think the government has actually issued something like £60 million worth of fines in the last 10 or a dozen years. So they're doing something about it. But you know, you are checked by the French, and then you're checked by the British Border Force in France, so you're twice. And I remember when we used to do booze runs, which before Brexit you could very happily do, go across on the ferry for a day, go to a supermarket, buy your cheese, your wine, fill your boot with wine, and come back through. And I remember every time we did that, we'd be stopped and we'd have to open the boot. Well, you couldn't have fit a mouse in because we had so much wine in there. There couldn't have been anybody. But there are certain places, you know. There was apparently I read about a couple in Essex who were fined £1,500 and then it was revoked because a migrant tucked himself inside a bike rack cover on the back of their motorhome.
Yes, but this is probably you've rightly identified one of the problems there because this driver had no idea they were there. He's been through 2 checks. He's done everything right. He's checked the various different seals. He's not going to put a ladder up his lorry and see if there's a slash in the roof or something. That's not really his job to do. But it is these people. I mean, he was arrested initially, this guy, on suspicion of being a human trafficker, and then also you've said fines. People get fines for you pull back in somewhere around Dover, you drive off, you stop off at a McDonald's drive-through, an Eritrean pops out your roof rack and you get fined.
Yeah, but then they've all been revoked. I mean, nobody's going to be fined if they're in that sort of situation. But I would like to say, when he was talking, that guy, I don't know his name, I'm terribly sorry, he said how desperate they were. Now, if you're desperate, you're hanging on to an axle, or if you're desperate, you'd have to try and find a way. Would you please understand that these are not just necessarily economic migrants, all of them. There are people who are genuine refugees who desperately want a different life.
They're fleeing France, Nina. They're fleeing France. I mean, I would have more sympathy for that story if somebody had sort of piloted their own way here from Syria, right, directly from an extremely oppressive country.
But many of them have.
Well, but they're in France at the moment. The value added of being in Britain, other than France, is not, oh, thank God, now I won't be tortured to death by the federal authorities.
Yes, but under international law, you are allowed to go to the country of your choice.
Well, that's what
pass through as many.
We should end that.
The argument that you're making there is a valid one when they have crossed the border from, say, Syria to Greece, or they've come to at the first point of a Western civilization. The argument falls because they've travelled through many safe countries in order to get to Britain. But here's why it's so important that Reform's policy of Operation Fortress happens, because a lot of people are criticising it this week. We're trying to stop these people drowning in the Channel as well, don't forget. And if those people that are serious about the welfare of these people would back that policy...
You're trying to dress that up. I mean, and that's what makes my blood boil. It really does, saying, oh, we're only trying to save people in the Channel. That is not... You're just trying to get rid of them.
Should we let them keep drowning?
What do you... That's not a question...
How many could be drowning?
It's not stopping them from drowning. I'll tell you what it is. It's just pushing them back. Now, look at the physical situation where you have the Royal Navy and you have these boats. How are you going to turn them around? Can you imagine that the people, smugglers, and do not have weapons are not going to be turned around? And if you've actually managed to get them to a beach,
then I don't want them coming anywhere near Britain.
How do you drop them off?
Anywhere near Britain.
You cannot do that. That's the point. It has
Jamie,
nothing to do with saving lives.
To crack this, we need to change the law and the welfare system dramatically.
And leave the
We've got to go.
All right, a Home Office spokesperson has said we are relentless in our pursuit of people smuggling gangs and stand ready to respond to all methods, including lorries and other clandestine routes. That's why the Home Office has set out the most sweeping reforms to tackle illegal migration in modern times, removing incentives to withdraw people to the UK legally and making it easier to remove and deport them. Well, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your opportunity to come from France to Britain in the back of a lorry. No, it's not really, but you do get the same thing, actually, loads of cash and a bit of gold.
Welcome to All Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, well, loads coming up, including this.
I would take a thread and a needle and I'd interweave love into our society.
Oh, some breaking news about the Cambridge professor who is accused of being Britain's biggest Walter Mitty. He's gone, by the way. He's resigned. But first, though, a former neo-Nazi who was selected as a Conservative councillor candidate has now withdrawn from next year's election. Should someone have actually selected him in the first place? That's next.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Night tonight. Easy for me to say. Time now for the head-to-head. Just my name and then... All right, well, a former neo-Nazi who was selected as a Conservative council candidate has withdrawn from next year's elections in Somerset after criticism over his past anti-Semitism. So, yes, Joshua Bonehill Payne was jailed for 3 years in 2015 after promoting an anti-Jewification march online. And a year later, he received a further 2-year sentence for racially harassing then Labour MP Luciana Berger. But in prison, he underwent rehabilitation for extremist offenders since his release. He's campaigned against extremism and anti-Semitism, worked with Exit Hate and delivered counter-extremism training to police officers. Kemi Badenoch defended his selection, saying that the party believes in second chances. He also runs the Crewe Kern Gazette account on X, which I think many of you will actually know about. Here's some of their content. Can someone like that actually be reformed? Going ahead to tell on this now is the president of the Reform Jewish Alliance, Gary Mond, and journalist and commentator Nicole Lampert. Thank you very, very much. I think we can go first, I'm hoping, to Gary. Yes, hello. Gary, what do you think about this? Do you think he can be reformed? What do you think of the Conservatives' decision to have let him stand and then they stand by him?
I think this is a horrendous error of judgment on the part of Mrs. Badenoch. Yes, he can be reformed. Yes, he can be contrite. Yes, he can show remorse and he can do many good deeds. And there's a lot of things he can do that can help the battle against anti-Semitism. But to actually put him up as a parliamentary candidate or a council candidate, or to give him a senior position in the Conservative Party, which is what Mrs. Badenoch is doing, is totally wrong. And it creates the wrong impression and is likely to lead to essentially a loss of support for the Conservative Party, particularly among the Jewish community.
OK, yep, Nicole, then your views?
I know it's meant to be a debate, but I kind of really agree with Gary that I do think people can be rehabilitated. But I've been looking into this story for a piece for the Telegraph that I've written, and the more I've read about him, the more frightening his story is really in what he did to people. You mentioned Luciana Berger, who was attacked remorselessly by him, but prior to that, he just was a kind of general troll to people, labelled people paedophiles. People lost their businesses because of this, and I don't think he should be stood up as a councillor, as a politician, or even really being advising Kemi Badenoch. And Kemi is someone who, more than probably any other party leader, has support from the Jewish community, and people had faith in her. But I think it's a massive misstep, really, to do this.
OK, Gary, look, let me just put the other side of this up here then, really. I mean, he has actually released a statement in which he has unequivocally apologised for his past. It does seem to show absolute genuine contrition and remorse, and has said that he's actually done his very best to, in some way, atone for the errors of his past. He now, devotes his life when he's not apparently helping out to make some of these, actually at times genuinely very funny AI videos. He tries to de-radicalise people and expose extremism. So some people would say he's actually perfectly placed to advise Kemi Badenoch on this.
No. There's two separate issues here. There's firstly that because of his past, he would totally create the wrong image for any political party, let alone the Conservatives. And secondly, there's the issue of Mrs. Badenoch's judgment. We know that Mrs. Badenoch is widely regarded as a good friend of the Jewish community, but just looking into the history of the matter, look at how she behaved in 2023 when Suella Braverman was Home Secretary, and how she refused to support Suella over the scrapping of the hate marches. I get the feeling that Mrs. Badenoch is somebody whose support for the Jewish community, and here Nicole may disagree with me, but I get the feeling she's someone whose support for the Jewish community is only skin deep. And the moment it's politically expedient to throw us under a bus, she will do so.
Well, it's pretty strong stuff. Nicole, are you of the view then that anyone can actually be reformed? Because I know we talk about it quite a lot in this show, normally from the perspective of Islamist extremism. Do you believe that this guy has reformed, can reform?
I think people can reform, and you mentioned Islamist extremists, and we've seen both things happen. We've seen some of them reforming and being amazing advocates, both against anti-Semitism and trying to root out Islamism in their own community, and they are in many ways the most powerful voices. But then we have also seen some of them, and there's one that I have in mind who was brilliant and was kind of seen as a star, had his own radio show, and then went completely the other way down another conspiratorial hole. So This is one of the things that worries me about anyone who's an extremist in particular, that are they always going to be somewhat extreme? And I don't know. And I think the thing with Bonehill Payne is that it's not been long enough to know, really. I mean, suddenly we're told that he's been doing all this work on anti-Semitism. I've been writing about anti-Semitism for a decade now, and I didn't know he was doing any of that. So I would like to know more about what he was doing. And the thing that I would like to see him do more than anything else, and Kemi, is apologise to Luciana and the other victims that weren't spoken to before this announcement was made, because they're the ones that are hurting the most.
All right, look, both of you, thank you very much. Sorry, Gary, we're gonna have to move on, I'm afraid. But thank you so much, both of you. We really do appreciate it. It's Gary Mond there and Nicole Lamper. Just to say as well that again, Bonehill Payne has said he is, of course, sad that the Jewish community groups have refused to meet him. He loves the Conservative Party, believes in its values. He says that rehabilitation does not erase what he did, but it does give him a sense of duty. He can't change his past, but he hopes that he can do something more positive going forward. So that's his response there. Look, next we have got a really devastating story for you, and this actually involves an elderly lady who was fed dog food in her final days by a care worker who appeared unable to read the English on the packet. That's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Thunderstorms for some parts of Germany, Austria into the Czech Republic, fine elsewhere, and the heat continues to build on Thursday across Central and Eastern Europe. Mostly average temperatures or near average for Greece, but into Italy, Croatia, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, it's exceptionally hot temperatures heading towards 40 Celsius, 1 or 2 thunderstorms, northern parts of Spain into Andorra. Otherwise, a lot of fine weather for Spain, for Portugal and for the Canaries over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst there is some thundery rain across parts of Scotland at the moment, most of that will clear through overnight, leaving a fresher, drier day for many of us tomorrow. We do still have a frontal system making its way across Scotland at the moment, and this is bringing further outbreaks of rain. Some could still be heavy and thundery for a little while yet, but through the night we will see the rain in the north breaking up a little bit, and so it will be turning drier. All the time across southern areas it will be a dry night with lots of clear sky, and with that temperatures are going to be a little bit lower than they have been through some recent nights. Mid-teens across some southern areas, some places further north getting into single digits. So we do wake up tomorrow morning to a bit of a cloudy start across central and eastern parts of Scotland, and there will be some rain, but not as much rain as we've seen through recent days, and actually western parts of Scotland having some decent sunshine through the morning. A bit of a showery mix of sunny spells, showery bursts of rain for Northern Ireland, cloudier across parts of northern and western England and Wales, and a few spots of rain can't be ruled out, but central and eastern parts will get off to a fine sunny start. Now some of the cloud in the north will feed a bit further southwards, so there will be some cloud at times across southern areas, but this should break up into the afternoon with increasing amounts of sunshine here. And further north, well, apart from the odd spot of rain, it is going to be much drier than it has been recently, especially by the afternoon. With that though, slight change in our wind direction means, especially in the southeast, it's going to feel markedly fresher than it has done of late, highs of around 22 or 23 Celsius. Into Friday, and whilst much of the UK will be largely dry, just a few spots of rain here and there, towards the far northwest there's likely to be some wetter, windier weather here. Elsewhere, yes, plenty of dry, sunny weather to be had, and it's staying mostly dry in the south into the weekend, and here temperatures are set to rise again. Good chance we'll get back into the high 20s. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Yes, that's right. Don't forget, tomorrow GB News will be live across the UK as we celebrate Britain, and live at 9 p.m. Don't miss our special edition of Patrick Christys tonight. And we have got a very special evening planned for you. But back to much more serious news now. An investigation has found that an elderly woman was mistakenly fed dog food by a care worker who confused the packaging for a frozen ready meal. It was just one of many shocking failings uncovered by the investigation, which also found staff had recorded visits that never happened, so i.e. they didn't turn up to care for her. They've served her inedible food as well as the dog food and left her wet or in darkness overnight. It's absolutely horrific, isn't it? Well, is this yet another example of Britain's institutions failing older people? And I'm sorry, but how on earth can you not read the packaging on a label? Joining me now is Reform UK Group Leader of Hampshire County Council and member of Portsmouth City Council. It's Councillor George Madgwick. George, I saw this story this morning because I saw that you'd posted about it on social media, so thank you very, very much for coming on. Look, it makes me so angry, this. How on earth could a care worker not read that it was dog food on a packet?
It's shocking, and I come on radio and TV and speak weekly about things, and this one for me has really
hit home, and I think it's hit home for a lot of people because a lot of us know people that have either been in adult social care, are in adult social care, or potentially about to go into adult social care, and this is really serious. I mean, this contractor in particular, they hired 44 supposedly skilled workers in 23-24 foreign nationals, and clearly one of these people were looking after this particular patient. I'd spoke to the family today, the daughter, in great detail, and she's been an advocate and she's been fighting for this tooth and nail for a couple of years now to raise awareness and get justice for her mother. As you said in your opening report, this isn't isolated to just dog food, and that's bad enough. But as you stated in your opening report, this investigation found force feeding. It found not feeding at all, prolonged periods of isolation, the do not resuscitate certificate scrunched up and put in a cupboard. You know, a report said that there was lack of mobility support, the stale and inedible food, failure to record visits. I mean, this was not just a one-time incident. In this particular incident that we're talking about in relation to the dog foods, a care worker, there was 2 care workers in there. A care worker went into the freezer, got out a packet of dog food, which was clearly labelled, by the way, as dog food, and microwaved it. This care worker fed, we believe, 3 spoonfuls of this food to the lady prior to the other care worker noticing that there was dog food packaging on the table. She said that she didn't understand the labelling, and that's even a greater concern, Patrick, because if you can't provide the care where you're able to read food packaging, how are you meant to read prescriptions? How are you meant to read care records? And it took a further 2 weeks for them to notify the family of this incident. It's truly shocking.
It is. Look, I just want to be clear about something. Are you saying, you know, having spoken to the family, that you are very confident that the individual who did this was actually a foreign national? It wasn't just someone who, I don't know, couldn't read?
Yeah, I thought it was really important to speak to the family directly before talking to the media today. And I spoke to the daughter, and she confirmed that the lady was a foreign national who put the food in the mouth. That's been confirmed. And there was an English care worker with her, which is the one that noticed the food packaging and on the side and stopped the any more food being given to the lady mid-service.
Look, this is a very serious question, especially in light of what Andy Burnham wants to do with the care sector, which I think, broadly speaking, is a good thing. We need better care for our elderly people in this country. There can be no doubt about that. But we keep hearing, don't we, if it wasn't for immigration, our care sector would plummet. Who would care for? Well, I mean, there's a serious problem here, and question marks, about who we are actually bringing over to care for our elderly people, isn't there? Can they speak English? Can they recognise dog food? Will they actually turn up to care for them? Will they leave them in terrible situations all night? You know, I mean, this is the thing. We do need better vetting, don't we?
And absolutely, there is an absolutely wider national question here about the suitability of these skilled workers that come over and the rigorous testing that they're put through before they're given the responsibilities of looking after those in our society that are most in need. Equally, how the government and how our bodies react to these situations. It took an entire year almost for the CQC, the Care Quality Commission, to put this particular care group into special measures. They did that in May 2025, almost a year after the first report. So there is definitely a wider question of how councils, local authorities and the wider network can support people to ensure the safety of the people most in need.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very, very much, Councillor George Madgwick there. We contacted Councillor Matthew Winnington, Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing, Health and Care, who said, we accept the Ombudsman's findings in full and recognise the seriousness of what happened in this case. We ended our contract with Radis, which is the company in question, early, and we no longer work with or commission them. The care described in the report is not the standard anyone should expect, particularly at such a vulnerable time in someone's life. We have apologised. The actual company, Radis Community Care, said in a statement, the fact that dog food was mistakenly provided was wholly unacceptable. It said that it had improved its services and procedures and was no longer employing the care worker involved. Right, OK, look, loads more coming your way. We're going to be talking about this.
Watch yourself.
Yes, was the officer who shot and killed gang member Chris Capper, who's today been cleared of misconduct, actually thrown under the bus by the Met? That's next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
4 heat waves, weeks without meaningful rain,
As the UK heads towards one of its hottest summers on record, the pressure is showing here in Sussex, in the fruit growing across these fields. Well, the impact of the heat is already visible here. This local grower says that if these extreme temperatures continue, this year's harvest may well be smaller in size.
I don't think there's been another period like this in the history. 3 years ago, we had a tremendous heat wave in the middle of harvest. We were unable to get the fruit to cool down quickly enough. The following year we had a very, very light crop, and the same again this year.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's only all-female chess team, called She Plays to Win, has been promoted to the game's top division, only to be told they must recruit a male player to compete. Now, league rules require every First Division team to include at least one male and one female player, meaning that one of the team's female players could lose her place. I'm joined in the studio by the She Plays to Win chess players, Anusha and Alicia. Great to see you both this afternoon.
Thank you.
So sorry about what's going on. You've been promoted, but you might have to lose one of your teammates. What's going on here?
So essentially, we have fallen victim to this rule that She Plays to Win, our team, has been promoted to the First Division in our league, but now must have a male player as part of the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, that drought is due to long periods, record periods actually, with no rainfall and high temperatures. The areas that are affected, as you say, over half of England, half of the UK affected by that. The areas being East Anglia, Hertfordshire, the whole of London, Thames Valley, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, Devon and Cornwall, the West Midlands and Wessex, covering Dorset, Somerset, Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. So a huge area impacted by that drought. There is also that amber heat health alert still in place here. That's in place until tomorrow. And temperatures today in the south could reach up to 35 degrees. So people here in Bognor Regis coming to the coast to cool down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, welcome back. We come straight back in with some breaking news, because last night we introduced you to Professor Jason Arday, the Cambridge professor, dubbed as Cambridge's youngest ever black professor, who's found himself embroiled in a plagiarism row. Well, I can tell you that he's now resigned this evening after a string of allegations. Many claims he's made about his life have come under scrutiny. He claimed to have run 600 miles in 6 days, a feat that would have placed him amongst the world's elite athletes. He later modified it to say it was 12 days, actually. He claimed to have personally raised £5 million for charity. Now he says that he was part of a syndicate of 100 people. He also alleged that a pig's head was sent to his parents' house as part of a harassment campaign, but the police appeared to have no record of this investigation. He also said he appeared on a TV show that aired 20 years before he was born. And today, it's revealed yet another porky. Yes, Professor Jason Arday repeatedly claimed that he was the author of a book called Being Young, Black and Male, Challenging the Dominant Discourse, which was said to explore stereotypes about black masculinity. And apparently he wasn't. So that's quite important. It really is the story that keeps on giving. Joining us this evening to discuss this is Mark Littlewood. Mark, thank you very much. Well, he's resigned this evening, actually, in a statement that some people are joking on social media appears to be 100% AI generated.
Well, yes, you would have thought he would have had the good grace to at least have written his resignation himself. Perhaps he didn't even do that. This is an extraordinary tale, Patrick. I mean, I think earlier in the show, you were referring to a lot of people as saying he's Britain's biggest example of a Walter Mitty character. But on the face of it, it looks more like a deliberate grift, right? I'm not sure that he believes this about himself. That book you referred to, I believe, it's not just that he didn't write it. It was never published. Such a book doesn't exist.
So it just doesn't exist?
So it's extraordinary the extent to which he has, I mean, not embellished his CV, but apparently entirely confected it. But the real story here, I think, is how on earth did one of the great universities of the world fall for all of
or
this.
DEI?
Well, I mean, quite. But that appears to be the moral of the story, doesn't it? That because he's got this position of being the youngest black professor ever at Cambridge, we mustn't actually cross-examine his academic credentials and his various claims about his CV, some of which you would have thought you could check out incredibly easily. I mean, you've mentioned that running stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he would be in the British Olympic team.
Well, there's also, look, it's very important to say this, that as he was facing criticism and being called out for some of this stuff, loads of people rushed to his defence. Yeah. And these are some very, very prominent people. And even some other people at Cambridge University. And he was saying, look, this is racism. Yeah. This is, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but this is a racist witch hunt.
Yes.
And actually, it's not, is it?
No. Well, I mean, I think that the racial dimension to it isn't racism. I think that you might sort of say, ooh, is this bloke actually just a DEI hire rather than an academic hire? So that might put you on alert. But all of the questions are reasonable. I mean, the most extraordinary part of this case, insofar as the authorities not associated with Cambridge University are concerned, is a journalist from the Times Higher Education Supplement started asking questions of him. And Scotland Yard intervened against the journalist because this was apparently bad for Arday's mental health.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, this is just absolutely incredible.
Just going to pause there, Mark. Sorry about that. Thank you for stepping in. But we're very quickly now going to be talking about the associate editor of the Daily Telegraph who helped to break a lot of this stuff. It's Gordon Rayner. Gordon, look, I'm sorry, we've not got long now. But go on. What was your views on the fact that he has resigned this evening?
Well, I think it's been inevitable for quite some time, Patrick. I think as soon as this all started to blow up, his credentials were so clearly questionable, and with every day that passed, there were more and more questions. There were more things that we looked at that just turned out not to be right. And I think there's some serious questions, as I think your guests have been saying there, for Cambridge University. Why was he appointed in the first place? Why did they ignore people who were telling them as long as 3 years ago that you need to look at this guy, there's something not right? Why did they defend him? Why did they accuse people like me, as well as the Times Higher Education, of a vile campaign to undermine his credibility when we were just asking legitimate questions about his bona fides? What are those people going to do now? Are they going to look at themselves? They certainly need to.
It's all the usual suspects, I'm afraid, that came into bat for him as well. People who are professors of black studies, people who have got experts in decolonisation, all of that stuff, and then they're going to have to show some contrition. Now, look, Gordon, thank you. I'm sorry it's so short and sweet, but it's great to have you, and well done with all the work you've been doing. It's Gordon Rayner there, as the associate editor of the Daily Telegraph, and thank you, Mark, as well. Look, coming up, we're going to be talking about the officer who shot gang member Chris Carberry. He's been cleared of misconduct.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst there is some thundery rain across parts of Scotland at the moment, most of that will clear through overnight, leaving a fresher, drier day for many of us tomorrow. We do still have a frontal system making its way across Scotland at the moment, and this is bringing further outbreaks of rain. Some could still be heavy and thundery for a little while yet, but through the night we will see the rain in the north breaking up a little bit, and so it will be turning drier. All the time across southern areas it will be a dry night with lots of clear sky, and with that temperatures are going to be a little bit lower than they have been through some recent nights. Mid-teens across some southern areas, some places further north getting into single digits. So we do wake up tomorrow morning to a bit of a cloudy start across central and eastern parts of Scotland, and there will be some rain, but not as much rain as we've seen through recent days, and actually western parts of Scotland having some decent sunshine through the morning. A bit of a showery mix of sunny spells, showery bursts of rain for Northern Ireland, cloudier across parts of northern and western England and Wales, and a few spots of rain can't be ruled out, but central and eastern parts will get off to a fine sunny start. Now, some of the cloud in the north will feed a bit further southwards, so there will be some cloud at times across southern areas, but this should break up into the afternoon with increasing amounts of sunshine here. And further north, well, apart from the odd spot of rain, it is going to be much drier than it has been recently, especially by the afternoon. With that though, slight change in our wind direction means, especially in the southeast, it's going to feel markedly fresher than it has done of late, highs of around 22 or 23 Celsius. Into Friday, and whilst much of the UK will be largely dry, just a few spots of rain here and there, towards the far northwest there's likely to be some wetter, windier weather here. Elsewhere, yes, plenty of dry, sunny weather to be had, and it's staying mostly dry in the south into the weekend, and here temperatures are set to rise again. Good chance we'll get back into the high 20s. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Watch yourself.
The officer who shot gang member Chris Carper has finally been cleared of misconduct, but...
Firstly, I would like to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chris Carper.
Did his own colleagues at the Met help to throw him under the bus? And Green Party activists knocked on a man's door and then reported him to the police. for disagreeing with them. We'll take all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, also from the Metro for tomorrow. My lad's still serving time after phone theft in 2005, all while violent prisoners are being released. Again, we're going to see a tidal wave of these stories, aren't we, as the early release scheme really kicks in. Director of the Popular Conservatives on our panel this evening, Mark Littlewood, alongside Councillor for Reform UK, Jamie McIver, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And can you tell me what's going on here? Get ready, Britain, here we go. Did senior figures at the Met throw one of their own under the bus? Next.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. More from Patrick and the panel shortly. First, though, the headlines tonight at 10. The police watchdog has dropped its misconduct case against the Met firearms officer involved in the fatal shooting of Chris Cabba. The officer was cleared of murder last year after shooting the 24-year-old in South London in 2022. But he'd still been due to face possible misconduct action. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says it reviewed the case after changes to rules around police use of force. Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley says that the decision ends almost 4 years of uncertainty for the officer, but campaigners for Chris Cabba's family say it sends a dangerous message. Kemi Badenoch is facing growing backlash tonight after a former neo-Nazi who withdrew as a Conservative council candidate was offered an advisory role within the party. Joshua Bonehill-Payne had been selected to stand in Somerset, despite previously being jailed for subjecting a former Labour MP to what a judge called a cruel campaign of vile and racist abuse. He has now withdrawn his candidacy, saying he needs to show the Jewish community how much he regrets his previous actions. But Labour says giving him an advisory role is an insult and claims it raises serious questions about Kemi Badenoch's judgment. Cambridge University's youngest black professor has resigned after a row over his academic record. Jason Ade, a professor of sociology of education, stepped down after the university launched an investigation into his qualifications and honorary appointments. The inquiry followed reports questioning claims that he made about his career, including a book he said he had published and allegations that part of his PhD thesis were copied from another student. Professor Ade says the accusations and public commentary have taken a profound toll and says his resignation should not be mistaken for accepting the claims made against him. Also tonight, Wes Streeting is facing questions over donations from a think tank linked to disgraced cryptocurrency fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried. Reports have emerged that the new Defence Secretary accepted more than £37,000 from Labour for the Long Term in 2022 and 23. The think tank's founder had received more than £500,000 from Bankman-Fried shortly before its first donation to Mr Streeting. Well, Wes Streeting's spokesman claims all donations were properly declared, all due diligence was followed, and there is no suggestion he knew about the source of the founder's funding. New official guidance on single-sex spaces has come into force today across England, Wales and Scotland. The code, published by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, covers public facilities, including toilets and changing rooms. It says trans people should use either gender-neutral facilities or those that match their biological sex. The guidance follows last year's Supreme Court ruling that sex in equality law means biological sex rather than gender identity. And Ed Miliband has been challenged today over his past criticism of Donald Trump during talks with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The new Foreign Secretary was asked whether he still stood by comments he previously made about the US president.
Mr Miliband, do you still think the President is an idiot, a racist and a misogynist?
Well, Ed Miliband didn't answer that question, instead smiling and saying he was looking forward to the meeting. Behind the smiles, though, the talks focused on some of the biggest global issues facing both countries. The pair discussed the wars in Ukraine and Iran, the situation in Gaza too, and efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Mr Miliband says reopening that vital shipping route is essential to easing cost of living pressures here at home. Those are the latest headlines. One more roundup at 11 o'clock. Now, though, it's back to Patrick.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good evening. Andy Burnham has gone to war with the police. Today, the Police Federation threatened legal action against the Labour government over the early release of 2 remorseless cop killers. The 2 monsters guilty of the killing of PC Andrew Harper. There they are, yes, just smiling away as they're being led away. Now, Andrew Harper was an officer with Thames Valley Police, who today came out and openly criticised the Prime Minister.
I do worry about the morale, not just of my own organisation, the confidence of my 10,000 people who work with Thames Valley Police. So I urge the government to look again at this issue. I know it's a difficult situation because of the prison crisis that we have, but I would urge the government to look again, because I do think there is a risk of impacting public confidence in the criminal justice system.
Very rare for a police force to come out and say something like that about a Prime Minister, but it does get worse for the Prime Minister. It's emerged today that 9,300 domestic abusers are set to be released early, thanks to his government's decision. So how many women and children will be put at risk there? There's no way that you're telling me that the authorities are going to be able to keep tabs on all of them. And we actually know that this has backfired before. Domestic abuser Jason Hoganson was released early back in November 2024. He was then recalled to prison 24 hours later, after immediately trying to contact the woman he was in prison for abusing. So far, Andy Burnham has let down the police and survivors of domestic abuse, but now it's emerged he's also letting down children who've been sexually abused. Initially, a lot of people misread headlines like this, mainly because people wrote quite dodgy-looking headlines. Because it makes it sound there, doesn't it, like any rapist or any child sex abuser won't be released. But that's not true. What Labour has actually said is that only the serious child sex offenders won't be allowed out early. I'm sorry, is there any form of child sexual abuse that isn't serious? Unfortunately, Andy Burnham can't face questions about this because he decided to swan off on holiday. But if I was interviewing him, I'd just ask him to specify exactly which child sex offences he thought were unserious. And it's all warped, isn't it? And if you just want more evidence of how mental the justice system is, take a look at this. Yes, a police officer who shot gangland triggerman Chris Carber dead after the vile armed criminal tried to drive his car into police officers will now not face a misconduct hearing. That's good. That's the good bit, OK? That's not the bit that's warped. The warped bit, really, is this.
Today's decision by the IPC that after 4 years, NX121 will not be facing any misconduct hearing is welcome, but this has taken far, far too long.
Oh, it's taken far too long. Oh, I've always been on the side of this particular police officer. Personally, I just think that Mark Rowley and the Met actually can get stuffed, because watch closely here. You might recognise the police officer in this video, and this was taken shortly after the shooting of Chris Carber.
Firstly, I would like to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chris Carber. I can't begin to imagine what they're going through at this difficult time for them as they try to come to terms with the loss of their loved one. I know there is a great deal of concern out there about this incident. The community are hurt and there is trauma.
That man is Alexis Boone, the bloke now in charge of Hampshire Police and the force which delayed administering first aid to Henry Novak because they believed his ethnic minority murderer instead of him. And Alexis Boone could not issue anything like the same emotion over that as he did after Chris Carber was shot and killed. Yeah, he was at the Met at the time and he was apologising there to the family of Chris Carber, worried about the community. Oh, gosh, I know you've experienced trauma. Carber had actually shot a bloke in a busy nightclub not long before he himself was killed by a police officer who was just trying to protect himself and others. It actually also took a jury just a matter of hours to clear the police officer for murder. It's taken the IOPC 4 years now to clear his name entirely. And why did the CPS even charge him? I suspect simply because he shot a black man and they were worried about being called racist. The justice system in this country is absolutely rotten to the core, isn't it? Let's get the views of my panel on this now. Mark, we'll start with you, Mark Littlewood. Look, there's obviously a couple of different aspects to this. Firstly, the early release scheme. Andy Burnham appears to have lost the support of Thames Valley Police. I suspect wider police forces as well. And, you know, he's accused now of letting down victims of domestic abuse and child victims of sexual abuse.
It's absolutely incredible, this. I know that the defenders of the Labour government will say, and it's a fair criticism, that the Conservatives didn't build enough prison places. But you've had 2 years to think through what your early release scheme might look like. And in rough terms, I think it's about 50% of the prison population are in there for violence or sex crimes. Well, I would completely discount that lot and look at the other 50%. There also doesn't seem to be any clarity around what the terms of an early release might be. I mean, for example, if you released someone, preferably not a child sex offender, but somebody who'd been involved, I don't know, in a robbery, and you said, well, you've actually got to stay at home or within a mile of your house, or if you've traumatised some innocent people in a particular town, you can't go within 10 miles of that town. None of these conditions appear to have been thought through either. It's absolutely extraordinary, because the overcrowding was a problem that this government inherited, but it's had 2 years to think through the solution, and Andy Burnham's making it up over his tea over a weekend. It's absolutely mad. So I'm unsurprised that the police force are worried about this, because in essence their workload goes up because they know a lot of crims are coming out of prison and will be in the community much earlier than was anticipated.
Yeah, and you know, when it was first released, I think it was misreported, actually. The headlines were poorly written about there'll be no rapists released or child sex offenders. But actually, when you read it, they say no serious child sex offenders. So what, just a little bit of child sex offending's OK, but we draw the line at something else. I find that really perplexing. The government now deciding, and we can't question him because he's on holiday. This is the thing, we can't say to him, sorry, Andy, which child sex offences do you think are OK?
Well, unfortunately, we've got a Prime Minister that becomes Prime Minister and then avoids going to Parliament, despite having the opportunity to go to Parliament, chose not to, chose to muddle around with that. Then all these horrific things are happening and we are getting misleading headlines, of course, from the establishment Westminster media that don't like to tell the British people the truth. If they do that, there would be a problem in this country, because I think if people knew what's really going on in this country, we would see civil unrest. And then, of course, we then have the situation here where we've got a Prime Minister who I don't actually think he's that bothered about prisoners being released early. What he's bothered about is that the public might start turning on him a bit quicker than he thought. Already we've seen the Burnham bounce isn't a thing. Already we're seeing that he is incredibly unpopular with his choices of government appointments. So I think what Burnham will be doing is trying to hide. And, I mean, by the way, how on earth is that bloke on holiday right now? He's just become Prime Minister. I mean, most normal people, when they get a job, don't go on annual leave within a few weeks. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Of workers' rights,
and I've got nothing against people having a rest. But the point about this story, I think, and I think particularly with this police officer here, is we have a serious situation in this country where the police are bothered about offending absolutely everybody apart from white people. That's the truth of the matter. Heterosexual white people, even worse so. We've got a situation in this country where people are too scared to talk about radical Islam because they might be called Islamophobic, which is not a real world. They try to talk about the fact that actually we should do stop and search, but no, that's really offensive towards black people. The reality in this country is the police, and by the way, police officers tell me this. Police officers, then they'll get sacked if they say it at work, but they tell me, Essex police officers in particular, and police officers in a Met that live in Essex, that are also my residents, tell me they are so scared to speak the truth at work because the institutional bias is unbearable. But these people have got mortgages to pay. And so what we need to see, and I hope police officers do this, I hope we start to see them actually whistleblow what is really going on in our police forces, because the institutional bias against white people is horrendous.
Well, OK, we'll focus on the early release thing and we'll come on to the Chris Cabba police officer in a second. But this early release thing is going south pretty quickly for Burnham, isn't it? I mean, Thames Valley Police to come out today and...
People are trying to stick things to Burnham at the moment because everybody's desperate to bring him down just as he started. He started well. He's announced... plans every single day since he started, and he's entitled to a holiday. The man probably hasn't slept in months, and we need a Prime Minister who is fresh and who can come back and make decisions. Always is the time when most people are on holiday. This is the easiest time to take a holiday. If he took a holiday in the middle of something where it was, Parliament's not sitting, how can you grudge the man a holiday? He needs to recharge his batteries and come back. And anybody, I mean, you're sneering, Jamie.
I'm
but
laughing because I can't keep my straight
Patrick,
face.
there's times when you've been on your absolute knees and you have needed a holiday and you've taken a holiday and nobody's castigated you. We've all been in that.
I did also cancel my honeymoon to report on the general election, though.
Well, fair enough, but that wasn't necessarily for fatigue, was it?
No.
But the country's
would have been nice, wouldn't it?
No.
I was really looking forward to that honeymoon.
No.
So selfish.
No.
When you're head of an organisation, as the Prime Minister is head of government, and things are going wrong in your organisation, you can't leave.
So when
things
are not going wrong, and the thing is, he's in a rock between a rock and a hard place. When Labour took over, there were just 700 odd places. And you were quite right. You tried to lance the ball with saying that the Tories were actually, disastrous with this. You dumped 23 prisons. You actually abolished.
They've had 2 years to work out the response to this government.
Okay, well, let's just get on to the police officer, the Chris Cabba police
They're spending billions. Oh God.
All right. Well, OK. Well, I think we're fine. Anyway, we'll get on to the police officer. I just want to fit this in, Nina. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Right, so...
But you allowed them to speak for hours and hours and hours. I practically fell asleep listening to them.
Oh, God. Well, hopefully the viewers didn't. Anyway, right, look, yes, this police officer. Now, OK, it's all very well and good for Mark Rowley from the Met to come up and go, oh, gosh, it's awful, this. It took 4 years to clear this guy's name. Well, there was at the time a very senior member of the Met who was doing a grovelling video apology to the family of Chris Cabba. If I'd have been that firearms officer then, I'd have been thinking, right, well, there you go. That's me banks of rights, isn't it? Cheers, mate.
It's a disaster. I mean, I think essentially what we've had, I've got some sympathy with what Jamie said is the outcome, but we've basically seen a massive overcorrection in policing. I think if you go back to the 70s, 80s, possibly even the 90s, there is a problem. You start looking at the statistics of what sort of people are dying in police custody, for example, and it doesn't tend to be white people. That had to be dealt with. But it's gone way too far the other way. We have got to instill in every copper, from the most junior trainee right to the top, that their overarching priority is to crack crime and to nick the bad guys, not to be sitting in on courses about sensitivity to people's particular racial or religious preferences. And there's now, as Jamie rightly identifies, clearly a culture of fear about speaking out about this. Anything that suggests that you think the whole DEI regime has gone too far, career-ending. And that leads to these outrageous statements being made. And for this poor copper, OK, this has come to an end, but the process is the punishment. He's lost 4 years of his life.
Yeah.
He's done nothing wrong.
Well, and there was also big things. I mean, we're not naming it, right? But he was named in court.
Yeah.
That will unquestionably have put him at huge risk as well. I'll give Jamie the final word. So, Nina, we're back to you here. Do you think that this firearms officer was thrown to the wolves a bit because essentially he shot an ethnic minority?
I think your people are paranoid about that sort of stuff. I mean, what Jamie's been saying is that the white heterosexual male is the most beleaguered part of our society. That's absolute paranoia. It's not true. There are still. You said that there was racism. We've known that for decades and decades and decades, up until say the 90s. It still exists. It still exists. The people who are stopped and searched are still, in the majority, black people. There is still racism, and there's racism.
Racist, Nina, because you can identify certain communities, men more than women, Afro-Caribbeans more than Hong Kong Chinese, who are more likely to be involved in crime. It's just a fact, and facts can't be racist. So if you're stopping and searching people, you would tend to stop young Afro-Caribbean men, not elderly Jewish women. Not because you're racist, because that's what the criminal data tells you.
I can take that point, but I think that the balance is still too far the other way. I can quite see that there's an overcompensation in certain cases. cases, but I think overall the feeling is there is still racism.
Fine. Well, with this today, I mean, OK, so he's not going to face any kind of misconduct hearing. He was charged with murder, you know, and basically it was one of these cases where when the jury actually watched the video, they're like, why the heck is this guy even here? And it does make me worry. Again, it's all really well and good for Mark Rowley to come out and go, oh, well, we've supported him behind the scenes a lot, actually. And you know, there was a bloke there who was essentially just saying, oh, I'm so sorry for the trauma that you suffered. If I came and issued a statement like that on an active court case, I feel like I could get done for contempt of court.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Ultimately, we have a DEI rot in our institutions, in our public institutions. I want police officers, especially firearms police officers, to have zero hesitation to shoot someone that is a danger to the public when they have made that assessment that they are trained to do. I want zero concern from them about whether or not they've got a lawyer behind them about to take away their life, their mortgage, and maybe even their freedom. And what happened in this case is a police officer in the line of duty protecting the public has had a 4-year punishment by process because he did his job. And it's the same for our army, it's the same for our veterans who are worried about the lawyers behind them rather than the enemy in front of them.
And this is it. And so you've got, you know, you've got a few justice stories rolled into one there, and essentially what it boils down to is that you've got a completely innocent firearms officer who was very bravely doing his job, who nearly had his life completely destroyed. And then you've actually got non-serious, quote, I'm air quoting for our radio listeners there, child sex offenders being released. You've got domestic abusers being released, and you've got cop killers being released early. And it's mad.
But where are they to go? If we don't have the places, where are they to go? And the problem is that when we release prisoners, the recidivism rate is 50 to 60%. And most of these people that are coming back, the places are being taken by people who are coming back in within 2 years.
Who are not in prison for violent crime or sex crimes.
We should be looking at that. We should be looking at that. But the state of our prisons they're supposed to be not only to punish people, not only to keep them away from the public, but they're supposed to rehabilitate them, because what is the point of releasing them if they are not fit for society and be able to contribute and get a job?
All right. I think with that, though, the first bit is you have to show some genuine remorse, which some people do, but there's no evidence of it, unfortunately, when it comes to the killers of PC Andrew Harper. There's certainly not publicly, but anyway...
That's the dreadful thing.
Yeah. And as always, the victims are just not important in this conversation, and that's the worst thing about it.
All right, well, on that note, I do need to tell you about the Great British Giveaway. Yes, and here with all the details is Hayley Sparks.
Welcome to All Asante by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, well, shortly I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Mirror, they go for help is on the way to tackle the mental health crisis. More than 150 centres to be open to relieve pressure. But before that, Green Party activists knocked on a man's door and then reported him to the police for disagreeing with them. That's next.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Oh, welcome back. So this is an absolutely remarkable story. So it's becoming a familiar story from the police, I'm afraid. Remember when Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson found police at her door over a social media post, which she last week actually received an apology and damages for by the behaviour of Essex police. And then there was the couple arrested after criticising their daughter's primary school in a WhatsApp group. Well, now, journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti had the police turn up at his home after a tense exchange with a Green Party canvasser. The case was later dropped and no further action was taken. Is this another example of the police spending time policing speech instead of fighting crime? I'm very pleased to be joined this evening by the journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti. Well, John, thank you very, very much. So can I just get something straight then? So people knocked on your front door, so they've turned up unannounced at a property you own, and then you've had a disagreement with them, and then they've reported you to the police. What's happened?
So back during the campaigning period before the local elections, the Green Party did turn up to my house, as lots of parties do, and I told the canvasser that I didn't want them here, that I'm Jewish, and that I considered their party to be anti-Semitic, and I was very disturbed by the policies that the party was putting forwards. So when they did turn up again sometime later, a few weeks later, I was quite angry because I had basically, as far as I was concerned, opted out. And this is something that they should record. They should not turn up at my home. And so another canvasser turned up, and I once again expressed my dissatisfaction with their policies, with their views, and then a conversation ensued, let's say, and I did go out of my house and discuss with this candidate down the street somewhat, because she said a couple of things which really did, I would say, trigger me. They made me very upset. They made me feel quite threatened and harassed. And that was that at one point when I asked if she, like the party leader, believed that Jews were worried about the perception of anti-Semitism, you might remember Zach Polanski said that, instead of actually anti-Semitism, despite the fact that Jews had been killed on Yom Kippur in Manchester, that Jews had been stabbed in Golders Green, that ambulances and synagogues had been firebombed. I asked that, and I asked if they had a problem with Jews in the party. She replied that she has lots of Jewish friends who are anti-Zionist, and that maybe there would be less anti-Semitic attacks, fewer anti-Semitic attacks on Jews if Israel stopped killing children. Now, these sorts of things really did make me very upset, and I argued back. We had a conversation. I would say we had a robust exchange of views, and then she started to ignore me. And for all of this, weeks later, once they'd won in this area, I got this knock at the door. We'd gone our separate ways at the end of this, and then I got this knock on the door from the police, who insisted on coming into the house because they said my neighbours might see if they were talking to me on the doorstep. And they said that there was an allegation of harassment, that I had harassed this woman who'd come to my door, when in actual fact, they had come to my house when they knew I didn't want them here. It turns out from what the police said to me, the policewoman said that they were aware who I was, that I was a journalist. They know I'm Jewish. I told them that. I also have a mezuzah on my door, which is a Jewish item that identifies the home as a Jewish house. So I felt very threatened by this. And I must say that I do think that the Green Party is extremely problematic for Jews. And so I think it was completely reasonable that when somebody comes around to try and sell this political party to me, I might actually have something to question them about or to disagree with.
Well, I mean, that is a part of canvassing to an extent, isn't it? I suppose, and you know, political debate, you know, is a thing that should not be criminalised. There does seem to be a bit of a discrepancy here between the way the police have handled this and the way that they've handled things like, you know, pro-Palestine demonstrators turning up outside synagogues, restaurants, cinemas. And actually, at times, elected politicians' homes, and berated them or blocked people going in. I do wonder if the police forces in those areas have knocked on every single person's front door there and questioned them about harassment.
Well, you know what, Patrick? You know, I agree with you, because I've called the police in the past for things that have happened in this street and they don't turn up. Like the windscreen of my car, or rather the window of my car got smashed in. My car had things stolen from it. And I called them as it was happening because I was right next to it. They told me it's not life or death. We're not sending anyone. I've called them when the people in the local grocery shop down the road have been threatened by the regular shoplifters with a bottle they'd stolen. They threatened to strike the workers there. They won't come for that. But for this, because the Green Party said that I was harassing them when they came to my home, when they knew who I was, and they then refused to answer those questions about their party's policies. I just think that was an outrageous abuse of police time. I think it's really weird that the police came. And then in the end, the police dropped this after some time, and after I involved lawyers paid for by the Free Speech Union. They dropped it because they said there was literally no evidence that the allegation this woman had made happened. So bearing in mind they had literally no evidence, I don't understand why they came to my house, to my door, to my home. An Englishman's home is his castle. And I would say that to turn up here and try to intimidate me, and that's what I felt was happening. I felt this was an attempt to intimidate me. When the police told me that they knew who I am, that they know that I'm a journalist, it seemed very clear to me that perhaps these people disagree with my opinions generally.
Yes. Well, I suppose that would be the implication, is that if they knew that you didn't like it and they thought, well, if we turn up a second time, he might kick off or something, and then they try to kind of ensnare you.
May I just say, if you've got time, you know, the reason that I found them so triggering is that, you know, Deputy Leader Mothin Ali posted on around October the 7th, 2023, that Indigenous people have a right to fight back. And he later also called a Leeds Jewish chaplain, an IDF reservist, a creep and an animal, who went to Israel to kill women and children, and that chaplain's family had to go into hiding. We've had the Newcastle candidate from the Greens posting from a parody Anne Frank account who called for every Zionist to be killed, called them vermin and rats. You know, we've got this rap list that goes on and on.
It's important for me to say at this point that none of those people that you've rattled off here are here to defend themselves this evening. And look, I know that they've released a couple of statements about things like that and done that. Not that, you know, you would necessarily agree with what they've said, obviously, but, you know, they've released a couple of statements over the years there, just trying to either clarify their positions or deny certain things. But yes, but look, I mean, for me, it just seems absolutely baffling that we don't have serious crimes being solved on our streets, but someone could turn up there and report you, and then they end up sending police officers round to your house. It just seemed like another free speech issue, and it's, you know, again, it is absolutely bonkers, and it does come in light of the fact that some activists not from the Green Party, well, not openly from the Green Party anyway, were going round door to door to people's houses in places like, I think it was Bristol or Brighton, and asking them if they wanted to support a boycott of Israel, and then making a little note of everyone's addresses depending on what they said, which I mean I found incredibly sinister, and I'm not Jewish. So there we go. But Jonathan, look, thank you very, very much. It's great to see you, and it was interesting listening to you at the Oxford Union as well. So there you go. So Jonathan Sacerdoti there is a journalist. GBNews has reached out to the Greens, but we have yet to receive a reply. So there you go. Look, coming up, we will be taking a look at all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, including the Daily Mail. Yes, here we go. They've splashed it. Plagiarism professor resigns as Cambridge investigate him. And can you tell me what's going on here?
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Thunderstorms for some parts of Germany, Austria into the Czech Republic, fine elsewhere, and the heat continues to build on Thursday across Central and Eastern Europe. Mostly average temperatures or near average for Greece, but into Italy, Croatia, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, it's exceptionally hot temperatures heading towards 40 Celsius. 1 or 2 thunderstorms northern parts of Spain into Andorra. Otherwise, a lot of fine weather for Spain, for Portugal and for the Canaries over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst there is some thundery rain across parts of Scotland at the moment, most of that will clear through overnight, leaving a fresher, drier day for many of us tomorrow. We do still have a frontal system making its way across Scotland at the moment, and this is bringing further outbreaks of rain. Some could still be heavy and thundery for a little while yet, but through the night we will see the rain in the north breaking up a little bit, and so it will be turning drier. All the time across southern areas it will be a dry night with lots of clear sky, and with that temperatures are going to be a little bit lower than they have been through some recent nights. Mid-teens across some southern areas, some places further north getting into single digits. So we do wake up tomorrow morning to a bit of a cloudy start across central and eastern parts of Scotland, and there will be some rain, but not as much rain as we've seen through recent days, and actually western parts of Scotland having some decent sunshine through the morning. A bit of a showery mix of sunny spells, showery bursts of rain for Northern Ireland, cloudier across parts of northern and western England and Wales, and a few spots of rain can't be ruled out, but central and eastern parts will get off to a fine sunny start. Now some of the cloud in the north will feed a bit further southwards, so there will be some cloud at times across southern areas, but this should break up into the afternoon with increasing amounts of sunshine here. And further north, well, apart from the odd spot of rain, it is going to be much drier than it has been recently, especially by the afternoon. With that though, slight change in our wind direction means, especially in the southeast, it's going to feel markedly fresher than it has done of late, highs of around 22 or 23 Celsius. Into Friday, and whilst much of the UK will be largely dry, just a few spots of rain here and there, towards the far northwest there's likely to be some wetter, windier weather here. Elsewhere, yes, plenty of dry, sunny weather to be had, and it's staying mostly dry in the south into the weekend, and here temperatures are set to rise again. Good chance we'll get back into the high 20s. Bye-bye.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
OK, welcome back. Let's have a look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, shall we? The Daily Express, early release is a betrayal of a hero police officer. It's not going away, this story, is it? That's Dame Priti Patel there now, getting stuck into Burnham's early release scheme. The Daily Mirror, help is on the way. Now, this is more than 150 new NHS mental health centres will open in a major boost for patients and A&Es. The Metro, my lad's still serving time after a phone theft in 2005. A mum whose son has spent 14 years in prison after stealing a phone in 2005 has begged Andy Burnham to free him instead of convicted killers. I will have to have a little look into some more details about this individual here, but it does seem extraordinary if that was a first offence. But anyway, the Daily Mail. Plagiarism professor resigns as Cambridge investigate. Just hours after they say they are going to investigate this guy, Jason Arday quits, saying he needs time to heal. Oh, there we go. Let's focus on that, shall we? I mean, this is an absolutely extraordinary story. And it appears, I mean, Glasgow University had to distance themselves from him, saying he was never a visiting professor there. Ohio University, I think it was, had to distance themselves from it. He said he'd written a book which has never been published. Look, you all know this, the drill here. It's absolutely unbelievable. He said he was in a television show that aired, I think it was 20 years before he was born, which is mad. But this is a real problem, actually, like that he managed to...
It's idiotic, because these are all things that can be checked and have been checked, which it seems to be ludicrous. I mean, it's not as damaging, to be perfectly honest, as, for instance, somebody who purports to be a surgeon and operates on people and has... There have been cases within the NHS, where some works... for years and years as a surgeon, and they don't have the qualifications.
No, but the best thing about this for me, the absolute best thing about this, is it is exposed beyond any reasonable doubt the people who are on the left, who are obsessed with race, obsessed with grievance, obsessed with seeing division everywhere. It's exposed of what they really are. You've got people here, some high-profile Cambridge University leaders who support this guy. Lord Simon Woolley, the principal of Homerton College at Cambridge, prominent peer in the House of Lords, is one of them, who initially supported this guy. Did Lord Woolley Google or go to any of the universities this guy's claiming to have worked for? Did he do it, or did he just see a fellow black person and think, I need to support you?
Yeah. Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, Nina's right. Nobody's died as a consequence of this, so that's some consolation, I suppose. But if I went to the head of a hospital and said, I think this chap who is conducting brain surgery doesn't have any qualifications and might risk killing people, I wouldn't expect the head of that hospital to tell me I was conducting a vile campaign of racism. That was the response of Cambridge University, a vile campaign to undermine this man's credibility. I'd expect my complaint to be investigated properly. And if they said, oh, my God, you're right, but he's counterfeited his brain surgery certificate so brilliantly that he pulled the wool over our eyes.
And he's autistic, by the way, and he's got autism, so it's all right.
But here, Cambridge Cambridge have had vast amounts of information in front of them and have decided to turn a blind eye to it.
And this goes right the way through. Right the way through. The kind of people that will blindly support this bloke. OK, you've got the General Secretary of the National Education Union. Yeah. You've got a prominent Windrush campaigner. You've got Professor Kehinde Andrews, the Professor of Black Studies at Birmingham City University, who wrote a book called The Psychosis of Whiteness. Dr. Scholar, she supported him. Who else have we got here? There's loads. It's endless. But actually, if you'd asked me to guess, Zach Polanski, John McDonnell, Clive Lewis MP. These are all of the people that just, if you'd have strapped a blindfold over me, I could have told you pretty much who was going to support this guy. Are we going to get any kind of contrition from these people, maybe?
Before I weigh in on this, I think the #1 story going tonight, having looked at all these papers, is how irrelevant the Tory party is. I cannot believe that the convicted neo-Nazi candidate is not featuring anywhere. If this had been a Reform councillor parking their car in the wrong space, it would have been a front-page story. But
no one died.
On this particular story, I think, as you just pointed out, the sort of people that are very involved in these kind of things, like, the MPs you've just mentioned, for example, clearly this person would have been quite easy to detect by their association with some of these people. But what I think is embarrassing and actually quite sad is for all those students that are saving, working really, really hard to be in an institution like these universities. For all those, they're really doing their best to come out with graduation and to pay for that. They've been literally wronged, and people that should be doing their due diligence haven't. And there should be accountability.
The thing is, do we know whether he was a good professor or not? Do we know whether he was a good... that he taught the students well.
How can one know that?
No, exactly. Well, exactly. So you were saying the poor students may have actually learned a great deal.
Going back to your earlier point, I suppose you might be able to conduct brain surgery adequately, even if you haven't got the right qualifications.
No, you can't.
The issue here is that he has deceived the university about his academic achievements.
It's dreadful.
So that disqualifies him. The fact that if he blagged it through that far, he might have been able to teach a few students something is neither here nor there.
No, but Jamie's saying the poor students. I'm saying the poor students, we don't know whether they have learned from him or not.
I'll tell you how I think I know that, because it says very clearly here, a poster boy for diversity as the university's youngest ever black professor.
So what?
Answers my question.
No, it doesn't.
That answers the query.
Was he a good teacher or not?
Well, that can't be the test.
Clearly,
I agree. It's dreadful. It's awful. He shouldn't have done it. Whatever. But I'm just saying, while you're saying,
the real issue is Cambridge University.
I think it just exposes how far you can.
Cambridge University should get no further state support until they have explained how they fell into this trap. It should get not a penny of state support.
It does show you how far you can push it, seriously, and how far you can go on the old DEI stuff.
Before somebody blows the whistle.
And then to claim it's all racism when someone points it out. Look, I should say, Jason Arday, who's of course not here to defend himself, goodness only knows what he's up to this evening, has previously denied the allegations in recent days, has said that his apparent plagiarism was not really that. He says he absorbs information through mimicry. In a statement released by the Good Lord Project, Arday said today, "It is with profound sadness that I write to resign with immediate effect. Sadly, the years since my appointment have also been marked by unrelenting levels of public scrutiny and personal attack. The relentless accusations, speculation and public commentary have taken a profound toll on me and those who I love. For now, however, I only ask for understanding, for compassion and for the space to begin again." He also says that this should not be mistaken for an acceptance of the narratives that have surrounded me. Well, coming up, we've got more front pages, including The Guardian. Academic resigns amid plagiarism accusations. Even The Guardian has turned on him. Plus, can you tell me what's going on here, please?
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Charlie, as most of the viewers know, I would be involved in agriculture. This isn't quite agriculture. It's quite close to it, the cousins of. A lot of things that go on in agriculture are on display here. Thousands of people coming to this site, Ragley Hall, just about 45 minutes out of Birmingham.
We are the modern ruralists, and here today we have the craft yard. We've got 9 different crafts, all demonstrating what they're up to. Here we have the wheelwrights. and they're bonding a wheel here. So this is an ancient craft that's been going for about. Barney Murray's a bit of a legend, quite frankly. He's the national champion, master dry stone waller, comes from North Wales, and he's a bit of a Thor lookalike. So he's quite popular.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, at 16 minutes past 8, the annual bike ride from Yorkshire to London is taking place today, aiming to honour the legacy of the Batley and Spen Labour MP Jo Cox, who was murdered by a far-right terrorist in June of 2016.
Well, the bike ride aims to champion a cause she was passionate about, as this year marks the 10th anniversary of her tragic death.
Kim, if we can just start with you, what is your sister's legacy?
Well, there's so much that we've got to be proud of that's been done in Jo's name. It's just been 10 years since she was murdered, and what has kept us going as a family has been the way that so many amazing people, including people like this amazing man, have done things in Jo's name to show what our country is really about. And you've got all these amazing people today from all different backgrounds, all walks of life, celebrating the things that we have in common, not agreeing on everything.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a difficult question. Honestly, I don't think I would at this rate, because I think the government tracks, when we say we're fighting for Britain, what are we actually fighting for? The concept of Britain, I don't think exists anymore. When I look at Britain, when I go outside, it doesn't seem to be very British. And I think the core demographic of the people who would normally fight, these white working class boys who, you know, have been fighting for Britain, who we expect just to sacrifice their life in a fight, you know, they've been demonised for decades and decades by the government, by our education system, by the media. Economically, they've been disadvantaged. So why would we expect them to risk their lives when we've demonised them for so long and took them for granted for so long? And this concept of Britain fighting for the British government, you know, the British government has betrayed us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
OK, welcome back. Let's round off tomorrow's front pages. And the Times, plagiarism row, professor resigns from Cambridge. The Guardian, academic resigns amidst plagiarism accusations. The Sun, West End stab rampage. And yeah, look, I mean, my understanding is that this is still an active case, so we're going to leave that there. But of course, it was the news earlier on in the day that 4 people appear to have been stabbed on the West End earlier today, which is devastating, of course. The Daily Star, they go for its Kent Eastwood, which I believe is a comment about how dry Kent is, I think.
It's a bit of a pathetic stretch, isn't it, of a headline?
I'm sorry, but with this stuff, all of these people posting pictures online going like, oh my gosh, England isn't supposed to look like this. It's not supposed to be this dry. I mean, there's a Labour councillor in an area where I live, actually, who's just posted, oh my gosh, how is Westminster School allowed to water its own pitch when you've got people who... Well, actually, it turns out that apparently Westminster School actually has its own kind of almost reservoir, which they store themselves. They are able to
that should probably be nationalised then. Yeah.
They're able to manage their own water intake and then use it for their own personal benefit.
How very dare they?
But no one seems to be speaking up and going, well, thanks to rapid population growth over the last 20 years and us doing absolutely naffle with our infrastructure, we now can't water our parks.
No, and it's also thanks to the complete ineptitude and crookery of the water boards who have not built a reservoir and who there's more water lost through leakage than ever, you know, whatever. So it comes down to that as well. It comes down to sheer greed from the water companies.
But again, it's not all... We wouldn't be looking at these pictures now if, you know, the climate we could still have the same temperatures, we could still have the same lack of rainfall, but if we were able to water things, if we'd built enough reservoirs and if the water companies were better, England would not be looking like the desert.
No. And why don't they use drones to see where the leaks are? I mean, that's a good
Well, it's
use of the
because, I mean, I don't want water renationalised because you can often look at failing companies and think, oh my God, if the government ran this company, it would obviously be better. Rarely is it, because governments make short-term or usually terrible infrastructure decisions that are a total waste of money. But what we've got wrong is that we haven't got the incentives and the penalties right for the water companies.
Yeah.
So you just need to tell them if the leakages are high, if sewage is slipping in, if you haven't built them, you're going to be fined. And if you build them, you get profits.
All right, look, thank you, everyone. We're going to have them all front pages next. There's an interesting story emerging about West Streeting. You don't want to see that.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst there is some thundery rain across parts of Scotland at the moment, most of that will clear through overnight, leaving a fresher, drier day for many of us tomorrow. We do still have a frontal system making its way across Scotland at the moment, and this is bringing further outbreaks of rain. Some could still be heavy and thundery for a little while yet, but through the night we will see the rain in the north breaking up a little bit, and so it will be turning drier. All the time across southern areas it will be a dry night with lots of clear sky, and with that temperatures are going to be a little bit lower than they have been through some recent nights. Mid-teens across some southern areas, some places further north getting into single digits. So we do wake up tomorrow morning to a bit of a cloudy start across central and eastern parts of Scotland, and there will be some rain, but not as much rain as we've seen through recent days, and actually western parts of Scotland having some decent sunshine through the morning. A bit of a showery mix of sunny spells, showery bursts of rain for Northern Ireland, cloudier across parts of northern and western England and Wales, and a few spots of rain can't be ruled out, but central and eastern parts will get off to a fine sunny start. Now some of the cloud in the north will feed a bit further southwards, so there will be some cloud at times across southern areas, but this should break up into the afternoon with increasing amounts of sunshine here. And further north, well, apart from the odd spot of rain, it is going to be much drier than it has been recently, especially by the afternoon. With that though, slight change in our wind direction means, especially in the southeast, it's going to feel markedly fresher than it has done of late, highs of around 22 or 23 Celsius. Into Friday, and whilst much of the UK will be largely dry, just a few spots of rain here and there, towards the far northwest there's likely to be some wetter, windier weather here. Elsewhere, yes, plenty of dry, sunny weather to be had, and it's staying mostly dry in the south into the weekend, and here temperatures are set to rise again. Good chance we'll get back into the high 20s. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, I'm afraid it's an absolutely terrible evening for Cambridge's youngest ever black professor, who has resigned in a massive plagiarism row. Even The Guardian have led with it. Terrible stuff. So we're talking about that. Grooming gang abusers are set for an early release from prison. So there you go. I thought, though, that serious child sex offenders will be kept behind bars. We're going to be talking about all of that, and as well the drought as well, the kind of self-inflicted drought that we've got in this country at the moment.
Welcome to Orla Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating with an incredible £60,000 to be won. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight now with Late Edition.
We inherited a prison system at capacity, and really difficult decisions have had to be made to release.
Why do they always dress up when they go on these things? Oh, better get the high vis on and the hard hat. Anyway, another day, another early release headache for the Prime Minister on holiday, as Burnham is accused of betraying police officers and the family of PC Harper. And just before we move on, there is actually another story. It's on the tomorrow's Times newspaper, which appears to put a bit of a spanner in the works for the government, which is claiming that no serious child sex offenders will be released early, because it now seems like grooming gang leaders are going to be released. Plus,
patriotism built not on blood and soil, but on shared values, shared institutions, and shared responsibilities.
Fascinating West Streeting story emerging here. Apparently, he was bankrolled by donations linked to an American crypto king fraudster. Also,
the Board of Electors on your interview day were absolutely unanimous. We are so lucky to have you.
Oh, yes, delicious, isn't it? Britain's Walter Mitty, or plagiarism professor, as he's now being known as. He's quit this evening from Cambridge University after a litany of allegations against him. And the NHS has been told to prepare for an annual heat wave crisis as we deal with a self-inflicted drought. Joining us this evening, the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov, and GB News contributor and comedian Steve N. Allen. But first, let's get that news with Sam Francis.
Patrick, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story tonight, the police watchdog has dropped its misconduct case against the Met firearms officer involved in the fatal shooting of Chris Cabba. The officer was cleared of murder last year after shooting the 24-year-old in South London in 2022. But he'd still been due to face possible misconduct action. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says it reviewed the case after changes to rules around police use of force. Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley says that the decision ends almost 4 years of uncertainty for the officer, but campaigners for Cabba's family say it sends a dangerous message. Kemi Badenoch is facing growing backlash tonight after a former neo-Nazi who withdrew as a Conservative council candidate was offered an advisory role within the party. Joshua Bonehill-Payne had been selected to stand in Somerset, despite previously being jailed for subjecting a former Labour MP to what a judge called a cruel campaign.